Right. Joining us on the Gravytrain Podcast is Bryan Gohl from Red Light Rising. Bryan, great to meet you.
Awesome. Kevin, thank you so much for inviting me. Always happy to chat.
Excellent. Good stuff. So I did a bit of research, seen who you are, what you do. I'm intrigued. I'm really keen to understand the journey that you've been on, where you've come from, how the business started. It's 2017, right?
2017, correct? Yeah.
Cool. How did it come about?
Well, I guess I should mention to anybody listening, we sell red light therapy products. Red light therapy is a health product, so it's a very powerful red and infrared light that you stand in front of, and it gives you various health benefits. I actually used to be a carpenter. I'm a trained carpenter, and although I enjoyed the work, it's very hands-on, very physical, my passion was always health and wellness. So all the time while I was working as a carpenter in the UK, I was listening to podcasts about health. I was listening to audiobooks about health, purely for my own interest, my own passion. And then towards the end of my carpentry career, I really started to not enjoy work anymore. And I knew that, for both health, physical health reasons and mental health reasons, I knew I needed a change. I knew I needed to work in something else, preferably health, preferably wellness, so I could talk about health and wellness all day, because that is my passion. And at that time, as part of my own personal studies and reading, I came across red light therapy, which was almost unheard of at that time, all over the world, but especially in the UK. Yeah. And after doing a lot of research, I realized the science of red light therapy sounds amazing. Now I need to buy one. And I couldn't buy one in the UK. So myself and my business partner, James, we continued the self-study, found some engineers that could help us build it. So we got the parts together, built our first few panels, and started using red light therapy, and very quickly realized that the benefits are legit. It was working for my own personal health, and that's when we decided to try and go into business and sell red light therapy products in the UK. And that was 2017, and I am happy to say, touch wood, we are still going strong, so that's a good fun.
I think I did some research in terms of that red light therapy. We have some tools with Gravytrain, and it would appear that the search volume, which is the amount of people searching for it, is literally in the last maybe I think it's 2020 it started really kind of picking up. Does that reflect your experience?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, my business didn't pick up as much as the search volume, because when we first started, we were in a blue ocean, as they say. We had no competitors. We were extremely niche. So if you wanted red light therapy in the UK, you had to buy from us.
Sure.
Obviously, there was a very small pool of people that were looking for it, but they were all buying from us. So business was actually really easy. I had no e-commerce experience at all, so everything was new, but the sales were pretty much automatic because of that captured market. But then, around 2020, I suppose there was a big explosion in competitors. And that means, business has steadily been getting more difficult since then. We're having a nice uptick in business now as well, because now I have a lot more experience. So now I kind of have a better idea of what to focus on. But yeah, that big spike in, people searching for it it's kind of reached, I don't know if critical mass is the right term, but millions more people are aware of it. And the social.
What's sparked that back in 2020? The search volume goes up. Obviously, you're in a market where super niche. You were like the major player, if you like. What caused that uptick in demand?
Mostly influencers.
And consequently, the competition.
Yeah, mostly influencers. Starting to talk about it with their huge audiences. But there was also a viral study that came out of University College London in 2021, I think, that showed that red light therapy was really good for eye health. And for some reason, I mean, there's thousands of studies for red light therapy. Like the health benefits are extraordinary. But for whatever reason, this study went viral. So a lot of, news agencies, I think it was on CNN, it was on a couple of really big outlets, they started sharing this information about red light therapy for eyes. So that really exploded it, in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, and with that came the increased competition and other people try to jump on.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about red light therapy, in the early days, it was very difficult to make it because no one was making it. So to find a factory that could mass produce it, that was a hell of a task because, no one was doing it. So there was certain machinery. You had to alter a lot of technology to make what you wanted. But now, of course, all the factories in China have caught on. So they've all tooled up. And now there's this explosion of competitors because now it's quite easy to source at least a basic product. And so, the competitors grew and, knowledge about the product grew as well.
Yeah, interesting. So 2017, you did you build the first website in 2017?
Yeah, we built the first website. My business partner, James, already had some ecom experience. He was at that stage doing the drop shipping thing. So where you would kind of, reverse engineer what's selling on Amazon and then get it directly from AliExpress. And he had some early success with that. So he, as far as I recall, he built most of the first website. And that was on WordPress, and that was Commerce HQ. Sorry, that was this other. This other platform I think it's a bit obscure now, but Commerce HQ. So very much plug and play. But because we were so new.
What are you on now?
Now we're on Shopify.
You are, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What was the? When did you go to Shopify, and what was the primary driver for doing so back then?
So we went from Commerce HQ. I'm not sure if this is going to be a nice thing to say on your podcast, but as soon as we could afford it, we started hiring agencies to help us, and we made the mistake. I think everybody makes this mistake where you find one agency and they tell you, oh, we can do WordPress, we can do marketing, we can do Instagram, we can do emails, we can do it all under one roof where you'll have a project manager and everything is lovely. So we found our first little agency and they helped us move from Commerce HQ onto WordPress. So we were on WordPress for quite a few years, but it was just set up so poorly from the beginning that they kept changing developers. So the one developer would make a rat's nest and then the other developer couldn't figure it out. So we'd have to change the whole. WordPress was a nightmare. Nothing worked properly. Like randomly things would break. It was absolutely awful. The website was ugly. And in this time, I was learning more about marketing and business. And then I decided about 2 years ago now to change to Shopify because it was just, I could do it myself, first of all. There was minimal coding needed. So I just put my head down for, a few hours a day for a few weeks, and I completely rebuilt the website on Shopify. And then relaunched that, and it's just been a much smoother experience.
I bet you've never looked back. Have you really? It's just nuts.
No. I mean, unless you've got your own in-house developers that you're confident aren't going to bugger off, then WordPress might be better. But, if you're a startup, like, in my opinion, Shopify, easy peasy plug and play. And the good thing about Shopify is, the support can be a bit dodgy, but you are going to need plugins and apps and all that. And my experience is the support guys on the apps are amazing. So
even outside of the capabilities of the app.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy. You go onto the Shopify App Store, you choose the app with the best reviews, you install it, you contact them, and they just, usually just help you set it up and get it working perfectly.
Yeah. That's good. So no looking back on Shopify. I think I did a podcast the other day with a guy that had gone from Magento to Shopify, and I think he said Shopify saved my life is what he said.
Yeah. I mean, the flip side is, I'm on these Shopify groups, and someone will, open a business, start a Shopify, and then go, hey guys, I've been in business 3 weeks and haven't made one sale. Can you look at my Shopify and tell me what's wrong? And it's like, Geez, that's a big question, you know. So it's not a panacea, you know. You obviously still have to get your whole e-commerce thing right, but just making something visually pretty at least is a lot easier on Shopify.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. I think it's geared up for owner managed, founder led businesses to save the headache, which I think is the beauty. But then there are also perhaps certain restrictions and those types of things. Is less customizable maybe, but
Yeah, look, it is quite expensive because, you know, even I found out, like, I chose the most expensive theme because I was like, I want all the bells and whistles from day one. So I chose the most expensive theme, and then lo and behold, once you start digging into it, you're like, I can't do that. I need another app. So there's, you know, $50 a month. Oh, I can't do that. I need you know, so it ended up costing you like $600-700 a month maybe. But you know, I am a small e-commerce business, so right now it's fine. You know, if we get to, you know, much bigger scale, then there is another, I believe, another step in Shopify where you get a lot more customizable options. But you know, I don't need that right now.
looking at what you're doing from an acquisition perspective, what's the biggest headache from bringing in new customers?
The biggest headache is paid traffic right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, you know, it's very possible that, I mean, I'm obviously not doing it right, I suppose is the honest answer. But meta ads, meta paid traffic is the biggest problem because I've had non-stop problems with, you know, accurate attribution with meta. Google ads is okay, but I've just never quite got the, you know, the lead magnet, you know, working well. I have a couple of lead magnets that do well on my websites when the traffic does get there. But you know, getting a big stream of cold traffic to, you know, to take my lead magnet is proving problematic. So that's definitely the biggest problem.
Yeah, and what are you doing to try and overcome that at the moment?
That's the next step, to be honest. I actually need to hire a Facebook expert that can do some, you know, media buying for me. But the problem is, because I've done so much like self-education, it's very difficult to find people that know more than me, you know, and that can apply that to my niche, because my niche is very difficult to sell products because there's, you know, even though the search volume is growing, it's still very unheard of. You know, if you're trying to sell someone a handbag, it's very easy to get thousands of hits to your websites a day for handbags. But trying to get people to go to your website for a niche product, so far all the experts I've spoken to, they say they can do it, but then once we start throwing money at it, it's like, oh, they don't actually know what they're doing. You know, they can set up low ticket paid traffic, but they got no idea with high ticket paid traffic.
Is there an do you think there's an education piece with the customers at the moment? So it's trying to make them aware of that problem, the problem that your products solve.
The other thing that I'm actually personally doing in my business is moving away from cold traffic, and instead going for the warm traffic. Because what's happening in my niche right now is that, obviously I will always take cold traffic, but there's a big education chunk, you know, that needs to go in with the cold traffic. Whereas what I've found is that, you know, the people that are ready to buy or very close to buying have already done the education part. They've got the education, they believe in it, they know it works, and now they're just trying to choose which product. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm talking about people how to choose your product. So I'm actually going for the warm traffic, but, you know, I would love to crack cold traffic, you know, so that I can have my own education segment, and then once they're warm, then they can go into the warm funnel and, you know, hopefully convert at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. From a conversion perspective, what's the biggest challenge you have?
I
mean, do you, as far as you're concerned, does the website perform?
I mean, you know, I don't know, you know, because if I could speak to other red light therapy business owners and say, what's your conversion rate? And then I could compare 5, then I would know if it's performing or not.
Sure.
But,
yeah,
so when I speak to, I've got a couple of trusted associates that are in e-commerce as well. And they always tell me, well, your website underperforms according to the norm of e-commerce. But, it's because I'm not selling pens and pencils. I'm selling a product that like takes a lot of consideration. So,
yeah,
it could be better, but...
But I also, I guess that depends on what traffic you're bringing as well. So if you're bringing the cold traffic, the conversion rate is going to be lower. If you're bringing people that are in market, understand the benefits, are ready to buy, then you're going to have a higher conversion rate on those guys, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple of my competitors, like say the top 2, I mean, actually the top competitor or the leader in my industry has got a fantastic website. But all the others, in my opinion, are less user-friendly than my website.
Yeah.
So I have to therefore believe that they will have at least the same conversion rate as me, if not lower. Because, I do a lot of I try to do a lot of intelligence gathering from my paying clients. And a big theme is like, your website gave me all the information that I needed and felt really trustworthy, So I think, I'm constantly making small improvements, but my CRO is definitely getting better. That's for sure.
Good, excellent. What's the biggest thing? I mean, 2017. So you're 8 years ish, something like that. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in that time?
I mean, it's all about marketing. You've got to get all the technical stuff right. Your website has to work. You have to, remove as much unnecessary stuff as, you've got to get that stuff right. Yeah. But with great marketing, you can overcome most problems. So that's where the red light therapy niche is right now. It's all about marketing because everybody, the top 5 players, we all have great products. So nobody can honestly say my product is better. It's like, it's not really. Now it's all about how you make the potential client feel. So that's my biggest focus right now is, I'm spending a lot of time looking at the problems that my potential clients are trying to overcome in terms of, they know red light therapy is good for them. Now there's other problems. Who can I trust? Which product do I need? How do I use it? So that's what I'm spend most of my time trying to communicate. And, it's really working, because my post-purchase surveys, as I say, they always say like, love the information, you make it easy to understand, I feel like I can trust you, so it seems to be working in that sense.
No, that sounds really good. What about, I mean, I guess the products that you sell, people buy once, do people buy multiple products from you, or repeat purchases, or what does that look like?
It's probably a 50-50 split. Some people will buy once and never hear from them again. And then the other 50% will buy multiple items, because it's higher ticket. So they're usually a little bit wealthier. So once they feel how good it is, so let me backtrack for a second there. I have a lot of different shapes and size products for different, I've got products the size of a door, and then I've got a product that you can stick in your pocket. So someone will buy either one and get fantastic.
They'll
start somewhere, and then they'll decide, oh my gosh, if the small one is this good, imagine how good the big one is. Or, I love the big one, let me get a small one that I can take on the road.
Yeah.
And then
on holiday or whatever.
Exactly. And then I also get a lot of gift giving. So someone will buy something for themselves and go, oh my gosh, everybody in my family gets one. So there will be some repeat business there.
Yeah, that's good, because that's a big part of growth. Is it? But it doesn't matter whether it's somebody else buying another product or referrals or whatever, but if you can increase that frequency of purchase, that's a major accelerator of growth.
And I had no idea about that in the early days. And I always, I say to myself, or I say to any budding ecom people out there, I'm like, think very wisely about what you're going to sell, because a lot of people are tempted, like even my own friends, like they'll start an ecom business and you'll say, come look at my website, and they got 50, 60 products that they're testing off Alibaba. And it's like, do you know how difficult that's going to be to manage? Imagine 20 of them work, and you've got all these different products and shipping. It's absolute bloody nightmare. And then the other thing is like, if I'd understood the importance of, return customers and frequency, I might have thought about it a bit longer, because, that's literally where the gold mine is. If it's something that someone can buy from you every month or every 2 months, it's like, God damn, you only got to sell them once, and they're just, so.
Yeah, you get into things like subscriptions and all different stuff.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and my next business, I don't think I'll do physical products at all.
Okay.
I think physical products just bring another entire level of complexity and problems to the fore. So I'll definitely consider, developing some kind of a digital product. But, that being said, I am very grateful for my business, and it is relatively problem-free. So, super happy to work on it.
It's interesting. One of the things you talked about there was that you mentioned that you have some products that are the size of a door. There must be some logistical headaches with that, surely.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. So, I actually don't sell that one that's the size of a door anymore, because it was one single panel, and 5 times out of 10 it would arrived bent or damaged, because it was 50 kilograms. So straight away, had I known this, I wouldn't have done it. But straight away, you go into special courier ecosystem, because a normal courier won't take it. So it's always got to be a 2-man team. And then, like I say, 50% of the time it arrives damaged, and it was 10,000 pounds. So people were like, even if the box is damaged, I don't want it. So then I had to ship another 10,000 pound product and bring the other one back. It was a nightmare. Yeah. So, right now I've got a product that's 36 kilograms, and that also is just outside the cutoff for normal couriers. So that's another whole headache. So I've got to trim 5 kilos off this product so that I can ship it with normal couriers.
Yeah. No, that's the real headache, isn't it? So go, man. So
that's my advice.
Say again.
Small and light. That's my advice.
Yeah. So you like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, what advice would you give to your former self?
It's difficult to take this on board, but I think one of the things I would have done is I immediately would have found team members that were really professional at their jobs. So it would have been difficult to pay them. Talent, yeah. It would have been difficult to pay them well, but I would tell myself, you have to do it. Because, when starting a new business, it can be the difference between struggling along for 2 years or hitting the ground running and making sales on day one.
Yeah.
Although up front, it's like it breaks your heart, because you're like paying someone, paying a contractor $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month or $4,000 a month. And you're like, haven't even started the business yet. But, with my next business, I will build the team first.
Yeah. You're not the only one saying that. I asked the same question of founders, and there's a high percentage of people talk about talent and having the right people around them.
And it's
so true.
It sounds like I wouldn't have believed that if that someone had said that to me. I would have. And the second thing is, like, you have to learn how to market. You have to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
Explore your ideal client before you even buy a domain. If you're like, I'm going to start selling red pencils, you need to have a crystal clear idea of who wants to buy the red pencils. Because that's the mistake I made. I went around telling everybody how great red light therapy is without knowing what kind of person wants to buy red light therapy.
Yeah. So you're trying to convince people that aren't going to do it or whatever.
Yeah. It's better to sell a red pencil to one person who loves red pencils than to try and sell a whole pack of pencils to people who love blue, yellow, green. Like, it's a silly analogy, but
no, I get where you're coming from.
You have to be crystal clear about who you're selling your product to, because once you're crystal clear, then you can start writing your content and your marketing exactly to that person.
For those people.
And what that means is that when that person reads your content, he goes, this is exactly the product that I need. This guy understands me to the T. This is what I want. And
I think that's really valuable.
And it's really difficult to take that on board if you've never sold anything before, because it does sound like it doesn't make sense really. But once you've been grinding at it for years, you realize, if I'd done that on, if I could rebuild my business now with everything that I know, like, I might be retired already.
Yeah. Me too. Excellent. Good. So Bryan, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much. So there's some really, really good stuff there, and I really appreciate it.
Cool. You're most welcome.